On November 4th, 1922, the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered in the Valley of the Kings by excavators led by the Egyptologist Howard Carter, more than 3,300 years after Tutankhamun's death and burial, whereas the tombs of most pharaohs were plundered by grave robbers in ancient times. Tutankhamun's tomb was hidden by debris for most of its existence and therefore not extensively looted. It thus became the only known near-intact royal burial from ancient Egypt. The tomb was first opened on November 4, 1922 during an excavation led by Howard Carter and financed by his patron, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon. Inside were over 5,000 artifacts, many in extremely delicate condition, requiring extraordinary conservation work before they could be safely removed. The wealth and beauty of these items sparked a global media sensation and brought ancient Egyptian-inspired designs into fashion throughout the Western world. For Egyptians who had only recently gained partial independence from Britain, the discovery became a powerful symbol of national pride. It strengthened pharaohism, a national movement emphasizing modern Egypt's connection to its ancient past, and caused friction with the British-led excavation team. Public interest grew even more when Carnarvon died of an infection, fueling rumors that his death and other mishaps were caused by a pharaoh's curse. Following Carnarvon's death, disputes broke out between Carter and the Egyptian government over control of the tomb. In early 1924, Carter halted work in protest, triggering a conflict that lasted until the end of the year. The eventual agreement broke with earlier Egyptological practices. Instead of dividing the artifacts between Egypt and the expedition sponsors, nearly all the treasures were kept in Egypt and sent to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Media attention faded after 1925, aside from reports on the removal of Tutankhamun's mummy from its coffin. The final items were preserved and transported to Cairo in 1932. Although the discovery did not reveal as much about Tutankhamun's reign as scholars had hoped, it did confirm the length of his rule and provided insight into the close of the Amarna period. More importantly, it illuminated the material culture of the era, showing that a complete royal burial looked like and shedding light on the lifestyles of Egypt's elite and the actions of ancient tomb robbers. The global fascination with the tomb inspired new training programs for Egyptian Egyptologists. Ever since, the Egyptian government has used exhibitions of the artifacts to promote cultural diplomacy and raise funds, and Tutankhamun himself has become an enduring symbol of ancient Egypt. On November 4th, 1979, the Iran hostage crisis took place when 66 Americans, including diplomats and other civilian personnel, were taken hostage at the Embassy of the United States in Tehran, with 52 of them being held until January 20th, 1981. The event took place after the Muslim student followers of the Imam's line seized and occupied the United States Embassy in Tehran in the aftermath of the Iranian Revolution. Backed by Ruhollah Khomeini, the leader of the revolution and future founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the hostage-takers demanded that the United States extradite the deposed Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who had been granted asylum by President Jimmy Carter for cancer treatment. Among the students involved were future Iranian officials Hussein Dagan, later defense minister, Muhammad Ali Jafari, later commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary Guard, and Mohammad Bagheri, later chief of the General Staff. The incident caused a severe deterioration in U.S.-Iran relations. After 444 days, the crisis ended with the signing of the Algiers Accords between the two nations. By that time, the Shah had died in Cairo on July 27, 1980. Time magazine described the crisis as a clash of vengeance and misunderstanding. President Carter denounced it as an act of blackmail, telling the hostages victims of terrorism and anarchy. Supporters of the Iranian Revolution, however, viewed it as resistance against U.S. interference and the protection of the Shah, who had been accused of human rights violations through his secret police. The hostage takers argued that Washington's refusal to return Pahlavi proved American complicity, while the United States condemned the seizure as a flagrant breach of international law and the Vienna Convention, which safeguards diplomatic personnel in embassies. 6 American diplomats who escaped capture were rescued in the Canadian Caper on January 27, 1980. When negotiations for the other stalled, President Carter authorized Operation Eagle Claw on April 24, 1980. The failed mission killed 1 Iranian citizen and 8 U.S. soldiers, leading Secretary of State Cyrus Vance to resign. After Iraq invaded Iran in September 1980, Tehran showed renewed willingness to negotiate with Algeria, mediating. The prolonged standoff was widely blamed for Carter's political downfall and his overwhelming defeat in the 1980 presidential election. The hostages were finally released to U.S. custody just minutes after Ronald Reagan's inauguration. In Iran, the ordeal boosted Khomeini's influence and solidified the dominance of hardline clerics opposed to Western engagement. The United States, in turn, imposed lasting sanctions on Iran, further straining relations between the two countries. And 30 years ago, on November 4, 1995, Yitzhak Rabin, the Prime Minister of Israel, was assassinated at the end of a rally in support of the Oslo Accords at Kings of Israel Square in Tel Aviv. The 73-year-old Prime Minister was walking to his car when he was shot in the arm and back by Yigal Amir, a 27-year-old Israeli law student. Israeli police arrested Amir at the scene of the shooting, and he later confessed to the assassination, explaining at his arraignment that he killed Rabin because the Prime Minister wanted to give our country to the Arabs. Well, that's all I have for you this morning. If you like what you hear, leave a comment down below and subscribe. This is Stephen Luke, and I'll see you next time for another history update.